And then other things that are part of that, believing in the prophets that have come before. None of us have met any of the prophets before, but we are told, and that has been passed by record, that they had existed. There were so many of them, 124,000. We believe in that number, more or less, in terms of the number of prophets that existed. All of these are included in believing in the unseen. Now, that second category of belief, ilm al-ghaib, having the knowledge of the unseen, is based on texts. Part of that category is the knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also gives to those who are close to Him, amongst the anbiya, amongst the awliya Allah. These, having drawn closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts lifting up those veils that makes available to their comprehension, to their sight, things that common mu'mineen are unable to see. An example, our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam ascending to the heavens, meeting the prophets, traveling on this journey, seeing heaven and hell. This is not something that any common mu'min was able to see, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it available to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All the knowledges that have been opened up to the mu'min, to Allah, to our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the knowledge of the unseen that has been given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the prophets. That is, no doubt, knowledge of the unseen. Right? One does not say that is the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exactly the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was saying, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but one says that this knowledge is given to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is given to all of the anbiya in some level or another from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as much as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills. We are not the ones who say that this is the limit of the knowledge of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because we don't know the limits that has been given to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that knowledge of the ghaib, and beyond the anbiya alayhim assalam, you have the awliya of Allah. And the awliya of Allah, as given from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may have certain veils lifted to them, from their sight, in which they may see things that common mu'mineen are unable to see. Example, Laylatul Qadr. Somebody who is in, if Allah wills, opens His doors on the realities of that night, people's experiences of seeing trees in worship, all animals, all beings, all dab, all of these creatures in absolute sajda on that night. These are experiences of people, common people as well. So whomsoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, He opens up the doors of the unseen, and to what level and what limit, that is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is between the knowledge between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and that slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we can sit and conjecture how much knowledge, what sort of knowledge that is between Allah and His slave. So our belief for being a mu'min is to have belief in the unseen. So the ayat, الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ, those who believe, those who have believed in the ghaib, those who have believed in the unseen. Who are these? هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, those who are muttaqeen, as mentioned in the ayat before, and those who believe in the unseen. Moving on, وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ, wa and yuqimu, he establishes, they establish, and they establish. Yuqimu, he establishes. Qama, to stand, and standing includes standing, establishing oneself on their two legs, so they stand erect. Yuqimun, they establish. As-salata, salat is our prayers, our daily prayers. What does it mean to establish our daily prayers? Those who establish their salat. Establishing your salat has to do with how it is performed, that it's always performed within their times, that one keeps the faraiz, one keeps the sunan, the mustahibat of the prayer, that one avoids the makruhat, those things that are makruh in the prayer, those things that break or invalidate the prayer, one avoids those things, and then fulfilling the rights of the prayer. So the question is, what are the rights of the prayer? And these are two types. The first being the zahir, which I've just talked about, the outward rights, meaning that we perform the sunan, performing it within its time, doing the faraiz, doing the mustahibat, avoiding the makruhat, and so forth. Avoiding those things that invalidate the prayer, those things that are disliked in the prayer, doing those things that are recommended in the prayer, doing the obligations, and following the sunan of the prayer. All of these being part of, as one studies fiqh, they will find, and it's delineated within fiqh sessions, that this is what your faraiz are. Every form of worship has its faraiz, has its sunan, has its makruhat, has its mustahibat, and those things that invalidate your worship. All of these things one learns. And establishing that within your prayer means establishing the prayer from the zahir aspects. Now, what are the batin things that one also, the second right, which is the batin or the inner rights of establishing a prayer? That is having khushu and hudur. Khushu meaning having that sweetness within one's heart when they are praying. Hudur, having the presence of mind and heart. That we do not have all sorts of influences coming in the prayer when we start our prayer. And when we say Allahu Akbar, the action of Allahu Akbar, lifting up your hands and dropping your hands, according to the Malikis, if you look at the interpretation of that, lifting up the hands, Allahu Akbar, and dropping your hands down, meaning we are saying Allahu Akbar, and with that we are entering into a sacred state, and we're dropping and leaving the world behind us. That being hudur, presence of mind and heart.